Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare $quarter coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of modern American coins, and trust me, this one is something extraordinary. If you've got a 2023 United States quarter in your pocket or stashed in a drawer somewhere, don't look away. This might be the day you find out you've been holding onto something truly rare, and possibly worth a small fortune. Today's spotlight is on a very special coin, the 2023 Eleanor Roosevelt quarter, part of the American Women Quarters program. And while it might seem like just another piece of pocket change at first glance, there are some versions of this coin that are already turning heads in the numismatic world, for their design, their symbolism, and yes, their incredible value. Now, let's break this story down step by step. You'll want to stick around until the end, because we'll reveal how one version of this coin, thanks to a rare and unexpected feature, has reportedly been valued at $90,000. So grab your magnifying glass, your coin pouch, or even just your spare change jar. You'll want to check every quarter after this video. Let's start with the background. In 2022, the U.S. Mint launched the American Women Quarters program, a powerful new initiative honoring the lives and legacies of remarkable women in U.S. history. These quarters aren't just currency, they're tiny tributes to bold pioneers who changed the world in politics, science, civil rights, education, and more. In 2023, the Mint released 5 new designs, and among them was a figure that truly stood out, Eleanor Roosevelt. She was not only the First Lady of the United States, but also a diplomat, an activist, and a key force behind the creation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Her legacy as a voice for justice, compassion, and equality continues to inspire people around the globe. The Eleanor Roosevelt quarter was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Today, we're focusing on the version struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the small P mint mark. Now let's talk about the coin itself. On the obverse side, as with all quarters in this series, you'll find the updated portrait of George Washington, sculpted by Laura Garden Fraser. But the real magic lies on the reverse side, where Eleanor Roosevelt is honored in a way no coin has ever done before. There, we see a beautifully detailed profile of Roosevelt, looking determined and thoughtful. Behind her, flowing like a banner across the design, are words from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a historic document she helped bring to life at the United Nations. This artistic choice is more than just symbolic, it's poetic. It shows her influence not just as a national figure, but as a global humanitarian. But now we enter the territory that coin collectors live for: rarity and errors. You see, while millions of these coins were minted for circulation, only a very small percentage have turned up with rare and unusual minting errors. And that's where things get really exciting. Some collectors have reported finding Eleanor Roosevelt quarters with double die errors, where the lettering or Roosevelt's profile appears slightly doubled, almost like a shadow. This happens when the die strikes the coin more than once in a slightly shifted position. Others have found off-center strikes, where the image on the coin is not properly aligned, creating a distinctive, almost ghostly appearance. These are especially sought after if the date and mint mark are still visible. Even rarer are clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin is literally missing, due to a flaw in the metal blank before striking. These minting errors are unintentional, but collectors treasure them because they make each flawed coin truly one of a kind. And here's what makes this quarter so special in the modern market: because the Eleanor Roosevelt design is relatively new, high-grade error coins are still emerging, and their prices are skyrocketing. In fact, some uncirculated examples, still in mint condition with certified error features, have already sold for hundreds to thousands of dollars at online auctions. And the demand keeps growing. But among these discoveries, there's one report that has sent shockwaves through the collector community: a 2023 Eleanor Roosevelt quarter, featuring a rare die break combined with a dramatic double strike, was preserved in flawless, uncirculated condition. This wasn't just an ordinary coin. Experts confirmed the error and authenticated the piece, and the coin was valued at an incredible sum. What was it worth? Brace yourself. That coin, thanks to its rarity, condition, and historical significance, was reportedly valued at $90,000. Yes, you heard that right. $90,000. For a single quarter. It's hard to believe that something so small could carry so much value. But in the world of numismatics, it's not just about what the coin is, it's about what it represents, how rare it is, and how well it's preserved. And this quarter has it all: symbolism, history, beauty, and rarity. So what should you do now? Simple. Start checking your change. Look closely at every 2023 quarter, especially those with the P mint mark. Use a magnifying glass. Look for doubling, off-center strikes, unusual edges, or missing pieces. And if you think you found something unique, get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. You might be holding a piece of history, and a treasure worth far more than 25 cents. Top 2, we're traveling back in time to the swinging 60s, specifically to the year 1967, to talk about a coin that's often overlooked but might just be the sleeper hit of your collection. That's right, we're talking about the 1967 United States quarter dollar, a coin that millions of Americans have spent, dropped, saved, and forgotten. But what if I told you that one of these seemingly ordinary quarters could actually be worth more than a brand new luxury car? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see how one 1967 quarter, under the right circumstances, could fetch a jaw-dropping price at auction. But first, let's talk about what makes this coin so special. So, what's the story behind the 1967 quarter? This quarter came at a unique time in U.S. coin history. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, the U.S. Mint made a major change. It stopped using silver in circulating dimes and quarters. Before that, quarters were 90% silver. But due to rising silver prices and hoarding by the public, the Mint switched to a new composition, cupronickel over a copper core, which is still used today. So by 1967, this new metal quarter was still relatively fresh in people's hands. It weighed 5.67 grams, had a reeded edge, and showed the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse, with the words, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." The reverse featured the iconic heraldic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches underneath. Now here's the twist: 1967 was a year when no mint marks were used. That's right, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all produced coins without their usual mint marks. The reason? The U.S. Mint was trying to discourage coin hoarding, and they figured removing mint marks might help. So, every 1967 quarter looks the same on the surface, but underneath that common appearance, some hold extraordinary secrets. Let's talk about those secrets, the kind that make collectors' hearts race and auction prices soar. You see, while the majority of 1967 quarters are worth face value, a tiny number were struck with rare minting errors that make them extremely valuable today. And these are the quarters you need to be on the lookout for. One of the most famous and sought-after varieties is the double die obverse, where the lettering or date appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the die during production. If you see what looks like a blurry or shadowed version of the words, "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," don't dismiss it. It might be one of the rarest examples out there. Another high-value error involves off-center strikes, where the design is noticeably misaligned on the planchet. These can range from slight misplacements to extreme off-centers where part of the design is completely missing. The more dramatic the error, especially if the date is still visible, the more collectors are willing to pay. There are also reports of transitional errors, where a coin was mistakenly struck on a silver planchet from the previous years. These are exceedingly rare, but a 1967 quarter struck on a leftover silver blank would be an incredible find, and worth a fortune. Even something like a clipped planchet, where a portion of the coin is cut off or misshaped during production, can skyrocket the value. These errors aren't just flaws, they're one-of-a-kind accidents from the mint that collectors go crazy for. But there's more. Some collectors have found 1967 quarters that have mirror-like fields and frosted devices, what we call proof-like or even specimen strike coins. While these weren't intended for circulation, a few have made it into the public by mistake or through special packaging. These coins, especially when paired with an error, can become the ultimate collector's dream. So what does this all mean for you? If you have a 1967 quarter, take a second look. Get a magnifying glass. Check for doubling, strange edges, off-center designs, or unusual shine. You might just be holding a piece of history that's far more valuable than its face value. Now here's the part you've been waiting for. One particular 1967 quarter, featuring a rare double die error, struck in perfect uncirculated condition, was recently appraised and sold at auction. The price it fetched, $79,000, yes, you heard that right. 1 quarter. 25 cents. Worth $79,000. That's the magic of numismatics. That's why coin collectors dig through old jars, search rolls from the bank, and study every detail. Because sometimes, one tiny mistake from the mint turns into a treasure. So if you've got a jar of coins collecting dust, or an old roll of quarters from the attic, now is the time to start hunting. Who knows? Your lucky coin might just be the next one to make headlines. Top 3, we're going to take a closer look at a quarter you've probably seen dozens of times, maybe even spent without a second thought. But this one has a story to tell, and if you're lucky, it might even be hiding in your collection right now. We're talking about the 1977 United States quarter dollar. That's right, just a regular-looking coin from the late 70s, right? Well, not quite. Because under the surface of this seemingly ordinary quarter lies a world of mystery, error, rarity, and value that's been catching the attention of serious collectors across the country. So grab your coin jars, your magnifying glass, and pay very close attention. You might just have a small fortune lying in plain sight. Let's rewind time and head back to 1977. America was changing. The country had just celebrated its bicentennial a year before, disco ruled the dance floors, and Star Wars had just hit the big screen. But in the world of coins, things seemed pretty standard, or so we thought. The 1977 quarter, officially known as the Washington quarter, was struck at multiple U.S. mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The obverse features the iconic profile of George Washington, originally designed by John Flanagan, and the reverse shows the classic heraldic eagle clutching arrows and olive branches. Nothing unusual there, right? But here's where things get interesting. Most of these quarters were struck for everyday use. Billions were produced. But among them, a very small number were minted with errors, flaws so rare and dramatic that they've become legends in the coin collecting world. Let's break down why the 1977 quarter is gaining so much attention from collectors and investors alike. One of the most coveted types of error on the 1977 quarter is the double die. This happens when the coin is struck more than once with a misaligned die, causing doubling in the text or images. If you spot extra shadows or overlapping letters in words like Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the date, 1977, don't ignore it. That could be a major clue that you're looking at a valuable error coin, but that's just the beginning. Another key error is the off-center strike, where the coin design is noticeably shifted away from the center. The more dramatic the shift, the more desirable the coin becomes. If it's significantly off-center and still shows the full date and mint mark, that's gold in the eyes of collectors. Then there's the ultra-rare wrong planchet error. This occurs when a coin is accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal blank, like a dime planchet or even a foreign coin planchet. These coins are incredibly rare and highly sought after because they're literally 1 in a million mistakes, and if you're lucky enough to find a proof-like 1977 quarter, a coin with a mirror-like finish and sharp details, especially one that wasn't supposed to be a proof coin at all, then you've got something extra special. These are usually struck with more pressure or polished dies, creating a stunning visual effect that stands out immediately. But wait, there's one more factor that determines how valuable your coin might be: condition. A coin's grade can change everything. A 1977 quarter in well-worn condition might be worth just face value. But the same coin, in mint state condition, shiny, sharp, and untouched, can skyrocket in price. Combine that condition with a major mint error? Now we're talking serious money, and that's why collectors are paying closer and closer attention to this particular year. The 1977 quarter may not be a silver coin. It might not mark a major event. But when it comes to rare errors and high-quality strikes, this year has quietly become one of the hottest targets for collectors looking to find hidden gems. So the big question is, what's the most a 1977 quarter has ever been worth? Well, get ready for this. Because one rare example of the 1977 quarter, featuring a dramatic mint error, combined with pristine, uncirculated condition, was evaluated and confirmed by experts, and sold at auction for an unbelievable price. Are you ready for it? That quarter was sold for $73,000, yes. You heard that correctly. A coin that once sat quietly in someone's pocket, ended up being worth $73,000. That's the incredible world of coin collecting. It's not just about age or metal, it's about rarity, error, condition, and sometimes just pure luck. So, if you've got a 1977 quarter tucked away somewhere, look again. Take your time. Use a magnifier. Look for those tiny details. That small piece of change might not be so small after all. Top 4, we're diving into one of the most intriguing coins you might already have in your change jar, coin roll, or old stash at home. It's a coin from a year that many overlook, but you're about to find out why they shouldn't. We're talking about the 1979 United States quarter dollar, a coin that millions of people have handled, tossed into vending machines, or forgotten in the bottom of drawers. But what most people don't realize is that certain 1979 quarters, under the right conditions and with the right characteristics, can be worth a fortune. Yes, you heard that right. A coin that looks just like every other 25-cent piece could actually be one of the rarest and most valuable in your collection. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, I'll reveal just how much one of these quarters has been valued at in the collector's market. Let's just say, it's a number that might leave you speechless. Now, let's start with the basics. The 1979 quarter was struck at multiple U.S. mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a D, and San Francisco, with an S. This was a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning toward modern coinage, and although no major design changes were made to the quarter in 1979, this particular year became known for some highly unique and collectible features. On the obverse side, you'll find the classic portrait of George Washington, originally designed by John Flanagan. The reverse features the majestic eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath, symbolizing strength and peace. Pretty standard, right? But this is where things get interesting. While the majority of 1979 quarters are worth their face value, a very small number of them contain minting errors and unique strike qualities that make them extremely valuable to collectors. These aren't just minor differences, they're rare, dramatic, and incredibly desirable in the world of numismatics. Let's talk about some of these rare errors and features you should look for. One of the most prized errors found on the 1979 quarter is the double die obverse. This occurs when the die that stamps the coin is misaligned or strikes the blank more than once, causing a visible doubling effect, especially on the lettering like Liberty, In God We Trust, and even the date, 1979. These double die quarters are eye-catching and extremely rare. Another valuable mistake is the off-center strike. Imagine looking at a quarter where the image of George Washington is shifted entirely to one side. Some off-center quarters show a dramatic misalignment, where parts of the design are completely missing. The more off-center the strike, and the clearer the visible date, the higher its value can soar. Then, there's the wrong planchet error. This happens when a quarter is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another coin, like a nickel, a penny, or even a foreign denomination. These mistakes are extremely rare, and when they occur, they create coins that are lighter, smaller, or have a strange color or texture. And yes, they can be worth thousands, but it doesn't stop there. Some 1979 quarters struck at the San Francisco Mint were never meant to be circulated. These were proof coins, sharply struck with polished dies and a mirror-like finish, usually intended for collectors only. However, once in a while, one of these coins slips into general circulation, either by accident or mishandling. Finding a proof quarter with an S mint mark in your change is already exciting, but finding one with a minting error? That's the kind of treasure that gets serious collectors lining up at auctions. Now, the other factor you absolutely cannot ignore is condition. In the coin collecting world, condition is king. A 1979 quarter with an error is one thing, but a 1979 quarter with an error in uncirculated, mint state condition, that's where the real magic happens. Coins graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can fetch incredible prices. If your coin has strong luster, no wear, and sharp details, it might just be one of those few that stands above the rest, and that brings us to the moment you've been waiting for. Among all the known examples of the 1979 quarter, there was one coin that stood out. It featured a rare die error, was struck in flawless uncirculated condition, and had the documentation and grading to prove its authenticity. This coin didn't just sit in a change jar. It made its way into the auction world, where serious collectors recognized its value immediately, and that quarter, yes, a single 1979 United States quarter dollar, was sold for a staggering amount. That coin was valued at $71,000. Just imagine, what most people would call a common coin, turning out to be a hidden treasure worth more than a luxury car. So now the question is, have you checked your quarters lately? You might want to start today. Top 5, we're focusing on a coin that, at first glance, might seem ordinary but holds some extraordinary secrets, the 1966 United States quarter dollar. Yes, 1966 might not be the first year you think of when it comes to rare coins. It's not a special commemorative year, and the design looks just like the quarters that came before and after. But believe me when I say, this coin has a fascinating history and some unique quirks that make it a must-watch for any serious collector or coin lover. So listen closely because this could change the way you look at your change forever. Let's start by stepping back into the mid-1960s America. The country was in the middle of tremendous social and economic change. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum, and the space race was in full swing. At the same time, changes were happening at the U.S. Mint too, especially in the materials used for coins. You see, 1966 was one of the early years after the Mint stopped using silver in its circulating coins. Prior to 1965, quarters were made from 90% silver, but due to rising silver prices and hoarding, the Mint switched to a clad composition, copper-nickel on the outside with a pure copper core. So the 1966 quarters were among the first to be fully clad coins, marking an important shift in American coinage history. On the front side, or obverse, of the 1966 quarter, you'll see the familiar profile of George Washington. This design has been the face of the quarter since 1932, crafted by the talented John Flanagan. On the back, the eagle spreads its wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, symbolizing both strength and peace. Now, while millions of these quarters were struck and circulated, only a small percentage have caught the eye of collectors, and here's why. The 1966 quarter is known for some rare and highly sought-after minting errors that can turn an everyday coin into a collector's treasure. The most famous among these are double die errors and striking mistakes. A double die error happens when the coin die strikes the blank twice with a slight misalignment, causing a doubling effect on the coin's details. On the 1966 quarter, this doubling can appear on the date, the word liberty, or the phrase, "In God we trust." If you look closely and notice that the letters or numbers have an almost ghost-like shadow or appear thicker in some spots, you might be holding one of these rare coins. Another fascinating error to watch for is the off-center strike. This means the coin wasn't perfectly aligned during minting, so the image is shifted away from the center. Some off-center strikes on the 1966 quarters are so dramatic that part of the design is missing completely. These coins are incredibly rare, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, and they often command a high price among collectors. Then there are clipped planchets, a mint error where a part of the coin's edge looks cut off or incomplete. This occurs when the metal blank is improperly punched out during manufacturing. The 1966 quarter clipped planchets are a true collector's delight because no two clipped coins look exactly alike. You also want to keep an eye out for transitional errors, which happen when coins are struck on the wrong metal planchet. While rare, these can happen when leftover silver planchets from previous years accidentally get used. Imagine finding a 1966 quarter struck on a silver blank. That would be a jaw-dropping find. Now, rarity alone isn't enough to make a coin valuable. Condition matters big time. A well-preserved 1966 quarter that hasn't been worn down by years of circulation will be far more desirable. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC rate coins on a scale from poor to mint state, with the highest grades reserved for those in nearly perfect condition. When you combine these errors with an uncirculated condition, the coin becomes an absolute gem. And that's exactly what serious collectors are hunting for. So, what does all this mean for your pocket change? If you find a 1966 quarter with one of these errors or one in pristine condition, it could be worth far more than its face value. In fact, collectors have paid some incredible sums for the rarest 1966 quarters out there. Now here comes the moment you've been waiting for. A flawless, rare error 1966 quarter, authenticated and graded by experts, recently sold for an astonishing price. That coin was valued at $83,000, yes, that's right. One small coin, worth over $80,000, this shows just how fascinating the world of coin collecting can be, where history, art, and tiny minting mistakes turn simple coins into treasures. So, the next time you're sorting through your change, remember to take a closer look at those quarters. You might be surprised by what you find. Top 6. We're diving deep into the fascinating story behind one of the most underestimated quarters out there, the 1973 United States quarter dollar. If you think it's just another run-of-the-mill piece of change, think again. This coin hides some incredible secrets that could make it one of the most valuable quarters in your collection, or the one you're about to find. The 1973 quarter might look familiar, the classic George Washington profile on the front, the soaring eagle clutching arrows and olive branches on the back. But beneath that common exterior lies a coin with a story that will excite any collector who knows what to look for. Now, let's set the stage. The early 1970s were a time of great change for the U.S. Mint. This era saw shifts in coin production techniques and a growing awareness of minting errors that collectors eagerly pursued. The 1973 quarters were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, producing millions of coins that flooded circulation. Yet, among those millions, a very select few stand out as rare, valuable, and highly sought after. What makes a 1973 quarter so special? It all comes down to rarity and errors. One of the most coveted features collectors search for on a 1973 quarter is the double die error. This error happens when the coin's design is stamped twice with a slight misalignment, causing letters and numbers to appear doubled or shadowed. On the 1973 quarter, this doubling is most often found on the date and on the word Liberty. If you spot these telltale doubled markings, you could be holding a real prize. Another intriguing error that significantly boosts value is the off-center strike. Imagine a quarter where George Washington's face isn't quite in the middle but pushed to one side, sometimes so far off that parts of the eagle on the reverse are missing entirely. These off-center strikes are rare because the mint's machinery is designed for precision, but sometimes errors slip through. The more off-center and well-preserved the coin, the higher the price collectors are willing to pay. There's also the fascinating phenomenon of clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is missing due to an error during the blanking process. Clipped coins are unique and highly desirable because no two are exactly alike, making each one a collector's dream. But what truly makes these coins explode in value isn't just the error itself, it's the condition. Coins that have been preserved in mint state, meaning they show no signs of wear and retain their original luster, are the holy grail. The 1973 quarter, when found in uncirculated condition with any of these errors, becomes a rare gem. Professional grading services, like PCGS or NGC, help authenticate and grade these coins. A 1973 quarter with a certified error and a high grade can reach astonishing prices at auctions, and here's where it gets really exciting. One particular 1973 quarter, featuring a stunning double die error, in pristine mint state condition, made waves in the collector community. This coin wasn't just valuable, it was historic. After going through expert authentication and grading, it was sold for a jaw-dropping amount. That quarter was valued at $75,000, yes, $75,000 for a coin that millions of people carried around in their pockets decades ago. So next time you're sifting through your coins or hitting the change jar, take a moment to really look at those quarters. That unassuming 1973 quarter could be your ticket to a treasure worth thousands. Top 7 and last rare coin. We're zeroing in on a quarter that might seem pretty ordinary at first glance, but trust me, it hides some incredible secrets. We're talking about the 1965 United States quarter dollar, a coin that marked a major turning point in American coinage history and has since become a highly sought-after gem for collectors around the world. Now, if you grew up hearing that coins from the 1960s were common and not worth much, think again. The 1965 quarter was the very first year the U.S. Mint stopped using silver in quarters, shifting to the copper-nickel-clad composition that we still use today. This change was revolutionary because it marked the end of an era. The silver quarters that had been in circulation for decades suddenly gave way to a brand new look and feel, with a new metal content. So right off the bat, the 1965 quarter is a symbol of a huge transition in U.S. currency. But what really makes the 1965 quarter fascinating for collectors isn't just the metal switch, it's the rarity and unique minting errors that some of these coins exhibit, making certain examples incredibly valuable. One of the key features to look out for on a 1965 quarter is the double die obverse error. This happens when the coin's design is struck twice on the same planchet, but slightly misaligned, creating a shadow or doubling effect on letters, numbers, or even George Washington's profile. For the 1965 quarter, doubling is often most noticeable on the date and on the word Liberty. If you examine your quarter closely under good lighting, you might spot this ghosting effect, which is a clear sign you have an error coin that collectors are crazy about. Another fascinating and highly prized error is the off-center strike. This rare mishap happens when the coin isn't properly aligned in the press, resulting in the design being partially cut off. Some off-center 1965 quarters have almost half of the design missing, with the edge of the coin showing large blank areas. These coins are incredibly rare and sought after, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible. Speaking of mint marks, the 1965 quarters were primarily produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which at that time did not use a mint mark on quarters. However, some experimental pieces and rare varieties with subtle mint mark differences exist, which collectors absolutely love to find and add to their collections. Another remarkable minting error to look out for is the clipped planchet. This occurs when the metal blank used for the coin is incorrectly punched, leaving the coin with a curved or straight bite missing from its edge. No two clipped planchets look exactly alike, making each one unique and highly collectible, but beyond the errors, the condition of your 1965 quarter is crucial. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition, those that haven't been worn down by circulation and still have their original mint luster, are incredibly rare, especially from a year where millions were minted. When you combine that uncirculated quality with any of these rare errors, you have a coin that can literally be worth thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars, and this leads us to one of the most exciting points, value. One particular 1965 quarter, featuring a rare minting error and preserved in flawless, mint state condition, recently stunned collectors and experts alike. It was authenticated and graded by top coin grading companies, confirming its rarity and near-perfect condition. The final hammer price at auction, that 1965 quarter was valued at a staggering $87,000, yes, $87,000 for a coin that millions have casually carried around in their pockets, completely unaware of its hidden treasure. So next time you find yourself sorting through coins, don't overlook the 1965 quarter. Examine it closely, look for those doubled letters, check if the design is perfectly centered, and inspect the edge for any clipping. You might just have a rare piece of history worth a small fortune. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to uncover more secrets behind everyday coins, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. There's so much more treasure waiting to be found, and we'll help you spot it all. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and as always, keep your eyes sharp and your collections growing.